Jaguar Wright has never been afraid of chaos, but this time she didn't just whisper fire. She poured gasoline on the whole stage and lit the match herself. When Jaguar speaks, most people brace themselves, but when she speaks names, that's when entire PR teams stop breathing. And this time, the name was Keith Urban. She didn't tease, she didn't hint, she came straight for the throat, saying that the country superstar wasn't just tangled in a tour affair. He allegedly fathered a secret baby with his 25-year-old guitarist, Maggie Baugh.
We have got to get to what seems like the week's biggest celebrity story. What seems like a sudden breakup between Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman, married for 19 years.
According to Jaguar, who's been sitting on what she calls verified mess for months, this is not just about backstage chemistry or flirtatious lyrics. This is about a full-blown cover-up involving hush money, legal maneuvering, and what she claims might even include medical falsification to conceal the existence of a child. In Jaguar's words, spoken during a now viral 3 a.m. live stream, "This ain't gossip, this is the secret they buried 6 feet under and forgot I had a shovel." The internet didn't just listen, it exploded. And every hour since has peeled back a new layer of the timeline, each one dirtier than the last. The fuse, as we now know, was lit on September 25 in Chicago. Keith Urban took the stage for what was supposed to be just another night of his High and Alive tour, but toward the end of his set, something shifted. Performing The Fighter, a song long known to be a love letter to Nicole Kidman, he altered the lyrics in a way that now reads like a confession. Instead of "when they're trying to get to you, baby, I'll be the fighter," he locked eyes with Maggie Baugh and sang, "When they're trying to get to you, Maggie, I'll be your guitar player." The crowd didn't catch it immediately, but the cameras did. And Maggie, she reposted the clip to her own Instagram account with the caption, "Did he just say that?" paired with 2 emojis that now feel almost surgical. One face peeking behind its hands, and another with its brain exploding.
Had a really rough relationship, and that's why I'm curious about the clause in the contract. Nicole knew very, very early on that Keith had demons.
So that move wasn't just impulsive. Sources inside Nashville's artist development circles are calling it strategic opportunism. One insider told us she knew exactly what that clip would do. It was dangerous, yes, but brilliant. The second she posted it, the speculation became narrative, and it didn't take long for the fallout to hit. Nicole Kidman, who had reportedly been trying to keep the family intact, filed for divorce just 3 days later, on September 28. And she didn't file gently. The documents asked for primary custody of their daughters, with a 306-day arrangement in her favor, an unusually specific figure that legal experts interpret as a preemptive move to lock down family stability in anticipation of a long-term custody battle. In the hours following the divorce filing, the Chicago concert footage vanished from YouTube and was scrubbed from fan accounts. Copyright strikes, takedown notices, whatever you want to call it, the purge was swift. But in the age of screen recordings, deletion only confirms suspicion. As fans re-uploaded blurry bootlegs of the moment, a new narrative formed. While Keith was serenading his bandmate with lyrics once reserved for his wife, Nicole was signing papers that would end a 19-year marriage and potentially cost Keith millions. Then came Maggie's single. On October 10, she dropped The Devil Win, a moody, emotionally charged track that reads more like a diary entry than a country pop release. Lines like, "I don't know how to heal my soul, or how to fight this feeling, and no matter how close I get to the burning edge. Tempting as it is, I won't let the devil win," were interpreted instantly as coded acknowledgments of the affair. Industry commentators called it confessional in tone, and fans wasted no time connecting the dots. The timing, tone, and title were simply too aligned with the rumors now engulfing her reputation.
Worth. Reports put Nicole's worth at $250 million. Reports put Keith's worth at approximately $75 million. So tremendous disparity. However, she's the actress and he's the musician. So she takes the back seat at the Grammys and was always the supportive one. And then he takes the back seat for the SAG Awards or the Oscars or what have you.
The shifts in Keith's personal and professional life didn't just stop with divorce paperwork. By mid-October, sources confirmed that Keith had terminated his longtime touring band, the same musicians who had backed him for over 2 decades. Not just a few tweaks or substitutions, full-on firing. A music director from another Nashville act described it as, "The the kind of move you make when you're trying to erase your old identity. Around the same time, he vacated the family's national mansion and was spotted moving into a low-profile rental property in a quieter part of the city. Again, no press release, no interview, just a new address and a U-Haul van. One industry veteran described the pattern as textbook unraveling. And it's here that Jaguar Wright's claims take on new gravity, because as she tells it, the lyric change wasn't just a moment of improvised affection. It was the soft launch of something much deeper. According to Jaguar, Nicole wasn't blindsided by rumors of infidelity. She was reacting to a pattern of financial secrecy, quiet payments, and what she was led to believe was concrete evidence of a secret child. One source close to Nicole's inner circle said, she didn't file because of a fling. She filed because she believed something was being hidden from her, something permanent. That something permanent, Jaguar alleges, is a child born sometime in early 2024, kept quiet through a combination of legal threats and off-record arrangements. She claims to have seen part of a financial ledger showing recurring payments made to a third-party account linked to Maggie's representation. While we can't confirm that document, its description has been corroborated by at least 2 other entertainment journalists, and this is where the financial stakes begin to skyrocket.
Although I am surprised, I think these two seemed a really steady couple. 19 years in Hollywood is a million years, and so I think we were surprised. However, people that have been in the know, people that have been the boots on the ground, they're not as surprised by this. They had a really, really messy start within months of their marriage. He was in rehab, they've admitted this, so they were married a few months and he went to the Betty Ford clinic and disappeared.
Yeah.
Keith's prenup with Nicole, signed back in 2006, includes what insiders call the white powder clause, a sobriety-based incentive entitling him to $900,000 per year of clean living. Over 19 years, that amounts to more than $17 million. But if his behavior is deemed to violate the terms, emotionally destructive decisions, deception, or substance-related instability, legal experts say the payout could be at risk. Nicole's legal team has remained silent on the prenup publicly, but several close observers believe their filings suggest a challenge to Keith's entitlement. And if Jaguar's claims of hush money hold any weight, that would only strengthen Nicole's position.
And the headlines in the media are all over the place. And you know how it is in these celebrity feuds, especially when it comes to divorce. We always have to find the bad guy. And everyone's desperately trying to find out who's to blame.
So where does that leave Maggie Baugh? As of late October, she's gone dark on Instagram. No stories, no updates, just silence. She was notably absent from Keith's Hershey, Pennsylvania concert on October 2, and no official explanation has been offered. Meanwhile, her October release continues to gain streams, partially fueled by the scandal. A Nashville publicist who's worked with both rising and legacy acts told us, she's playing a dangerous game. The fans love Nicole. If they think Maggie broke up that marriage and cashed in on it, she's done. But if she times this right, she could ride it to a breakout year. But the real stakes now stretch beyond fame. The whispers that Nicole's lawyers are conducting forensic audits into Keith's financial behavior have reached multiple corners of the industry. One source with knowledge of the proceedings said they're looking for patterns, payments, leases, medical reimbursements, anything that would suggest he funded something significant off the books. And when asked what that something could be, the source didn't hesitate. If there's a baby, there's a paper trail. Even the timeline of Keith's rental property has become a point of scrutiny. Public records show the address was registered under a holding company linked to his tour accountant, an arrangement typically used to obscure residency from the public. And yet, neighbors told reporters that a young woman, possibly Maggie, had been seen entering the house several times in early September. That sighting predates the Chicago lyric change and Nicole's divorce filing. Coincidence? Maybe, but it lines up with Jaguar's narrative, and that's all it takes to keep the story burning.
So I got on the phone with some of my Australian sources, and nobody else was surprised. I was surprised. I think the fans are surprised. The public at large is surprised, especially because they're so ubiquitous. I mean, they are really everywhere all the time. But they have not been living together for months, apparently.
Adding to the suspicion is the rumored suppression of footage from a private Nashville songwriting retreat that took place in late 2023. According to Jaguar, this is where the relationship between Keith and Maggie allegedly crossed the line. She claims the unreleased song Backroads and Lies was recorded during this retreat and never released because of its too personal lyrics. There's no trace of such a song in ASCAP or BMI databases, but that hasn't stopped fans from combing through Maggie's old tour footage for references. Meanwhile, Nicole Kidman has pivoted publicly. She's resumed appearances, traveled to Paris with her daughters for Fashion Week, and leaned hard into her Chanel ambassadorship. But privately, sources close to the Kidman family say she's preparing for what could become the most expensive celebrity custody battle in recent memory. Nicole's playing chess, one insider said. If Keith made Maggie a mother, Nicole's going to make him pay like one. And we're still not at the end of the thread. Because if Keith Urban risked his marriage, his reputation, and a $17 million prenup clause just to chase a younger flame, then the real question becomes, what else did he risk to keep it hidden? And how many people have been paid, pushed, or promised something to keep the truth off the record? Because behind the lyrics, behind the silence, and behind Jaguar Wright's camera lens, there's still one final answer that hasn't surfaced.
So I'm going to speak to a little bit about a particular view I get of Nick for a long time now. But I'll start with the fact that we met in January 2005. We were being honored at this event called G'day LA, which sounds a bit like a pickup line from Crocodile Dundee.
But the money trail is already pulling back the curtain. Maggie Baugh's streaming numbers tripled in the 2 weeks following the Chicago concert incident. Not gradually, overnight. One day, she was a well-liked, lower-tier country act with a loyal TikTok following. The next, she was being whispered about in major label circles as the next big scandal seller. And then came the Grand Ole Opry debut, December 16th, 2024, an honor, typically earned over years of quiet grind. But in Maggie's case, insiders say it came with an invisible asterisk. According to 2 national radio executives, the slot was pushed through back channels by a high-powered donor. No public sponsor, no promotional tie-in, just a single line on internal documents listing private benefactor funding. The connection? One name that kept surfacing in hushed hallway conversations, an executive known to be part of Keith's inner financial network.
So now, as far as I understand, he's the one that won it out, and she was kind of gaslighted by it all. Is that the way you see it too, or understand this, that he was the one who actually, and she was a bit surprised by it, or?
That's what all the reports are saying that are coming out now. So, of course, as soon as I heard this news, I was like, okay, first Hugh Jackman and now Nicole Kidman.
And here's where Jaguar's next allegation drops like a hammer. She claims that the funding came not from Keith himself, but from a ghost label, an inactive imprint allegedly reactivated just long enough to shuffle payments through. According to Jaguar, one of Keith's former tour accountants saw unusual transfers being issued from that label to a shell company tied directly to Maggie's manager, monthly payments steady as clockwork, coded as consulting expenses. Then, without warning, the transactions stopped. The same week, Nicole filed for divorce. That kind of silence isn't casual, it's surgical. Multiple sources now believe those payments were part of an informal hush arrangement. Funds exchanged to keep things quiet as rumors swirled and lawyers closed in. And the sudden cutoff? It reeks of panic. One former Universal Nashville staffer told us, "You don't end regular payments unless someone is pulling the plug fast." The fact that it aligned with the divorce filing? That's not a coincidence. That's legal fallout in motion. The property side of the story is just as tangled. Nicole's divorce petition didn't just demand primary custody of their daughters for 306 days a year. It also signaled intent to claim the couple's 20-year Nashville estate, a $4 million mansion they'd shared since their early years. But Keith wasn't there. He'd moved out months before, quietly leasing a solo property under a holding company name. And now, thanks to divorce filings, we know the timeline. He began the lease just after his European tour leg ended last summer, roughly the same window in which insiders say Maggie joined him on select travel dates.
This shocked, I think, a lot of people earlier in the week. So we did a story that Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman, after almost 20 years of marriage, they would have celebrated their 20th anniversary in 2026, that they had separated, but that we were told Nicole really still wanted to try and make the marriage work.
All of this dovetails into a deeper legal storm. That prenup, the one Keith signed in 2006, was supposed to secure him close to $17 million, paid out across the years of their marriage under one key condition: documented sobriety. But Nicole's legal team is now applying pressure where it hurts most. Sources close to the negotiations confirm they are investigating not just potential infidelity, but financial missteps that could indicate instability, recklessness, or concealed behavior, any of which could give them grounds to void the agreement. And if that happens, Keith stands to lose it all. But we need to be honest. None of that, not the money, not the property, not even the career reset, would matter this much if not for the final allegation Jaguar dropped: the existence of a secret child. She didn't dance around it. She went live and said it outright. There's a baby and he knows it. According to her, the child in question was born last year in Tennessee to a woman whose identity she won't confirm out loud, but described as having calloused fingers and a studio tan. She claimed the birth records were altered, the paternity line left blank, and that the last name isn't the one you'd expect, but it's familiar to everyone in the room.
So, I'm doing that more. And I say that to other people in the world, yes, and particularly women, I think. We tend not to take care of ourselves. We'll take care of everybody else, but the last person is.
The clinic, she says, was pressured. She wouldn't name it, but she insisted a private facility in Nashville was paid off to change the documentation. Jaguar described the child, blonde curls, blue eyes, and a last name that doesn't match the mother. And she didn't stop there. She claimed she possesses hospital receipts, although no documents have been released yet. But 2 days after her broadcast, Maggie posted, then quickly deleted a story showing a toddler's shoe sitting on a studio speaker. No caption, no explanation. It was gone within minutes. The industry reaction has been fast, cold, and tightly controlled. Multiple sources allege that Maggie has been forced to sign at least 2 separate NDA documents since the divorce became public. One connected to a contract renegotiation with her label, the other linked to a branding deal that evaporated after the scandal gained traction. Label executives, we're told, leaned on her hard. Some even rewrote her upcoming promotional materials to remove personal references entirely. Behind all of this is a psychological war that's quietly playing out in full view. Keith, by all accounts, is spiraling. His decision to fire his entire touring band of 25 years was only the beginning. He's canceled multiple studio sessions, he's reduced public appearances, and sources inside his team describe erratic behavior, missed rehearsals, disappearing for hours, snapping at longtime staff. One member of his former road crew described him as not the guy we knew, adding, "It's 2006 all over again."
When I formulated a hypothesis about famous people who marry famous people, and that the only way it can work is if one of them is willing to be the less famous. You cannot have two egos coexisting at the same time.
That year still haunts the family's story. Just 4 months after marrying Nicole, Keith relapsed, entering rehab in California after a destructive bender forced Nicole to stage an intervention. She flew in from Rome, gathered his friends, and cornered him in a house with a script that read like a final ultimatum. According to his own past interviews, he thought she would leave him. She didn't. She stayed. But those scars don't fade, and watching his current descent now feels eerily familiar to those who were around then. One of the most bizarre details, though, involved someone outside the triangle entirely, Maggie's former boyfriend, Cameron Coley. The two had been publicly dating for over a year, living together in a chic Nashville apartment through the bulk of 2024, but neighbors say he abruptly moved out just as the scandal started heating up. No explanation. And according to Jaguar, that wasn't coincidence, it was compensation. She claims to have screenshots of a Venmo transfer from an untraceable account, $20,000, labeled consulting. When someone asked what kind of consulting Cameron was doing, Jaguar smirked and said, the kind that buys silence before the tabloids start asking questions. We haven't been able to verify the payment, but we did confirm that Cameron has wiped all mention of Maggie from his socials. He's declined interviews, and while Maggie hasn't confirmed a breakup, she's been spotted living alone in a new property outside Nashville, a location previously tied to temporary housing for touring musicians.
I have to say, her choice in movies, it's always like she has these young lovers, and I'm thinking like, what does that feel like for Keith? Always watching himself in those kind of scenes.
Yeah, he notoriously just ended an interview recently because he was asked about that very issue with her having love scenes with Zac Efron, and he...
So here's the question we're all left asking. Was this a moment of passion that turned into a quiet catastrophe? Or is this the final act of a long-running deception that's only now cracking under the weight of truth? Could the next leak from Jaguar Wright be the one that finally drops names, dates, and receipts? Let us know what you think in the comments. Are we witnessing a career collapse or a carefully orchestrated distraction? Either way, we'll be watching. Until next time, keep your eyes open and your tea hot. This is Far From Over.